Hi everyone, today I wanted to talk to you about imposter syndrome as a PhD student. This is something that is very common amongst PhD students and can be very challenging. It makes it hard for you to make progress. You feel like you shouldn't be there, that you're not worthy. You can have feelings of uncertainty about saying yes to projects or opportunities, and really it's just a bad, horrible feeling, makes you much less productive and gives you a lot of self-doubt, can lead to other mental health issues and problems as well. So I wanted to share with you 5 different tips for dealing with imposter syndrome. These are things that I have found very helpful for myself and amongst friends of mine who have done PhDs. So the first is to just really be able to recognize and name the imposter syndrome. So when we're having those feelings of self-doubt, to actually be able to stop and self-reflect and say, this is what it is, it's imposter syndrome. If you like, you might want to give it a name, and that's going to be useful for one of my later tips. The second tip is to try and move away from perfectionism. Most PhD students have some degree of perfectionism, and in some ways that's how they got to where they are. To get through undergraduate, honours, masters, get into a PhD program is often because they have been very perfectionistic in their work. But by the time you get to PhD, this is actually starting to hold you back. It's going to impact your productivity, it's going to lead to this self-doubt and this imposter syndrome. And so really moving from an idea of perfection to adequate. And when I say adequate, I don't mean half-assed. I don't mean that you're going to produce crappy work. I just mean that it just needs to be good enough. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. For your PhD, you are the one that is going to spend the most time on it. You are going to know all of the little flaws and shortcuts and faults and problems, but people looking externally are not. They are going to see all of the good things and the work, and so really being able to just look at your work and say, this is good enough. I've put a good amount of effort. I think that it is of sufficient quality for an examination or an examiner or a peer review, but it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. My third tip is to not compare yourself to others. So just in general in life, this is a pretty good recommendation. You don't go onto Instagram and look at people's lives and say, oh, well, my life's terrible, look at how amazing it is. You know that the people are only really presenting the shiny, fancy part and not all of the rest. And so as a PhD student, you really need to apply that same thinking to your research. So don't look at other students and go, wow, look at them, they've got all these scholarships, they've got grants, their work is so much better. And in particular, don't think, I bet they don't feel like I do, because in fact there's a good chance that they do. Even the students that look like they are doing very well, are very successful, are often plagued with those same self-doubts, the same imposter syndrome that you're dealing with. So you need to be able to self-reflect, take a step back and say, okay, this is my research journey. I'm going to do good work, I'm going to do the best that I can, but I don't need to compare myself to others. I just need to make sure that I am going in the right direction for my own work. The fourth of my tips is to create an archive of successes. So when you are feeling that self-doubt, having an archive, having data basically, where you can look at it and say, here are things that I've done well. I'm actually not an imposter. I am in this position because of all of these good things that I've done. If you were doing teaching, then saving emails from students where they're thanking you for particular things. When you receive a compliment, write it down, put it in your archive. Anything that is showing that in fact you are a competent, capable person worthy of your PhD. You might also think about who are your fans. So it might be just friends and family, it might just be your mum. When I was doing my PhD, I knew that the cashier at the local supermarket knew all about my PhD. I'm sure they didn't really care that much, but my mum was very excited and very proud, and she would go and tell people about it. And so just going back to those people, even if it's your mum, and getting that positive reinforcement, it's going to help to cancel out that negative self-talk and remind you that actually you are doing a very good job. finally, my fifth recommendation is to accept that imposter syndrome, and this is where you might even name it, is something that is there. It is one of many different emotions you'll feel at different times. You could even imagine there's some sort of boardroom and all of the emotions are having a say about how you feel and what's going on. And imposter syndrome, the negative self-talk, it's just one of them. And so saying, okay, you've had your turn to speak. Those are the thoughts that you've shared. Thank you for your input. Now I'm going to move on. And being able to just self-reflect, realize that these negative self-talk and these thoughts aren't actually correct. And to be able to progress in your career, to be able to say yes to projects and opportunities, to be able to sit down and type some words into your thesis, and just carry on with your research and carry on with your studies. By using these tips, hopefully you are going to become more productive. It's going to help with having better self-reflection and being able to move past that idea of imposter syndrome. Thanks for watching this video. Please hit like and subscribe to the channel for more content for researchers and academic students. There's links below the video to our Facebook community where you can find other people who are embarking on their research journey as Masters and PhD research students.